welcome. It is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you on EWTN Radio. I am Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani. We are so grateful you to spend this time with us each and every day. Hopefully you tune in every day or as often as you can. We are live across the country and around the world on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. And Debbie, it's good to be back. Hello.
Well, welcome back, you and Charles from the Eucharistic Congress, the revival. So tell us real quickly, how was it? What was it?
Awesome.
I mean, awesome. So
Yeah.
Awesome is the word. Okay.
Yeah, well, I presume some of the other hosts have been talking about it, but it's it's a beautiful once-in-a-lifetime. Well, actually, may not be once-in-a-lifetime experience because they're talking already about 2033 doing the next one, which I think they mentioned is going to be, I think the church is going to celebrate the year of redemption because it's the 2000th anniversary of Jesus' death on the cross. So
Right.
2033, those of you who didn't get a chance to go to this Eucharistic Congress, you can start planning now because you have about 9 years.
That's enough time to plan. That's awesome. Well, we want to hear more about it, but I just want to introduce the topic so we can get the phone lines lit up like we did yesterday, Jerry. We had full phone lines plus on the topic of angels, and we will definitely revisit that topic again on a monthly basis because there was just a newfound understanding, respect, and reverence for the angels. It was just beautiful show yesterday. We missed you, but we're glad you're back. And Charles is at the controls. Matt Kabinski's at the phones. Michael McCall's on social media, and we want to ask the question, and this was suggested by our dear friend Cheryl. This one is going to be an interesting one. Where do you find a spiritual director, and how do you find a spiritual director? Here we go, because I know this is a tough topic, because in the old days when I was in spiritual direction, it was quite easy, but now it's a little bit difficult. You have to cultivate a relationship with somebody, and if you have that person that you trust that's part of clergy or a lay leader, I would definitely recommend keeping them because it's hard to find a spiritual director. But we have some ideas today. We're going to talk about it, Jerry. All we need is our Take Two family to show up strong in a big way like they did yesterday at 833-288 EWTN. That's 833-288-3986.
Yeah, I think having a spiritual director is a sign that you take your faith seriously, obviously. And just what is a spiritual director, or who is a spiritual director? It can be a priest, a religious, it can be a layman or a laywoman, preferably, hopefully, somebody that you know is prayerful and holy and seeking holiness themselves personally, and that they are able to help guide you along the spiritual path. It's not someone who is there to tell you what to do, but really someone there to help you acknowledge what God is doing in your life. So have you ever made use of, tapped into the wisdom of a spiritual director? If so, tell us how you came to have that relationship with that individual. There are people listening right now who are probably saying, I haven't heard anybody talk about this before, but it sounds kind of interesting. So as always, you will be changing lives here on Take Two with your wisdom and lived experiences at 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
So for proper discernment, especially if you have some big decisions you have to make in your spiritual life, or you want to advance your spirituality, having a spiritual director, or even having, some people have a couple of spiritual directors that can really advise you and direct you and challenge you to look at things in a different way is very healthy. Now, a lot of people have relied on lay people because I will tell you that a lot of priests and religious have gotten out of the spiritual direction work because it's a bit overwhelming. I did it for many years, had a lot of people. It was wonderful, but it can be very heavy at times.
Draining.
And
Draining.
Yeah, it really can. And actually, a lot of priests have said, I just can't do that. I can't add that. I can't add a lot of spiritual direction to my ministry work because I'm busy taking care of a parish or something of that nature. So please don't be offended if your wonderful pastor who you know and love, and you ask him, hey, Father, I really like you. We've had you over for dinner a few times. Can you be my spiritual director? And he very, politely declines. Don't be offended by that. It has nothing to do with the person. It has to do with the work that's involved. But we have a lot of suggestions, like Dan and Stephanie Burke's ministry, spiritualdirection.com, spiritualdirection.com. They have a great question and answer section there and how to find a spiritual director. And Dan and Stephanie Burke are committed to that area of ministry. So check it out, folks, spiritualdirection.com.
All right, and our phone number here is 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. Maybe you are just curious to know a little bit more about what spiritual direction is and who you should be looking for as a spiritual director. Again, as I said before, if you have, maybe you have one right now, maybe you are a spiritual director. We would love to hear from you, and you can share with us kind of your approach to that and help kind of fill in some of the gaps of our understanding of who and what a spiritual director is and does. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
And maybe you're not Catholic and you're listening right now and you're thinking, what are they talking about? I talked to all of my, fellow folks at church and people that I are in Bible group with, the Bible study, and yeah, that can be a form of spiritual direction, absolutely. But we're talking informal spiritual direction all the way up to like having a formal spiritual director that is designated for you and to help you in matters of faith and things of that nature. So let's really talk about it. Cheryl did a great job suggesting this topic. It is a bit of a difficult topic these days because a lot of people are complaining that they don't have access to religious and priests, and so that can be difficult. But I will tell you, thank goodness that very strong lay leaders that are very well formed in the faith, catechized well, are stepping in and helping out in that area. So that's wonderful. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. There you go. Now you guys got the picture. You're lighting up those phones for Matt.
Yeah, and you can email your take to our email address, which is always available for you at take2@ewtn.com. If you are among the many watching the video on Facebook or YouTube, hello to all of you. You can put your comments in the chat section there. We always love to try to get to as many of those as we can. The show website is a place you can post your comments, take2show.com. And don't forget, you can always text the letters EWTN to 58177. Wait for our response, then text us your first name and your brief comment. Message and data rates may apply. But that phone number again, 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. Tell us your experience of receiving spiritual direction.
Tomorrow morning on the Sunrise Morning Show.
We'll talk about the importance of encouragement among believers with Gary Zimak. We'll also get more reflections on the Litany of the Precious Blood with Father Rob Jack, and catch up with canon lawyer Father Philip Michael Tangora. Plus all the latest news, weather, sports, and everything you need to start your day a better way.
The Sunrise Morning Show, tomorrow at 6 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
The angels are messengers, warriors, protectors, but most of all, they can be our friends. In His Angels at Our Side, Father John Horgan introduces this extraordinary relationship available to all, an angel guardian chosen by God to be your constant companion. Learn what Scripture and the Church teach us about angels, including the responsibilities of angels at every Mass, 7 habits you can develop to grow closer to God through His angels, and more. See how angels are an integral part of our own world, and how their friendship can help you enter into prayer and communion with Christ our Savior. Understand the power of angels in your soul and the world with His Angels at Our Side from EWTN Publishing. Now available at EWTNRC.com or call 1-800-854-6316.
Where and how do you find a spiritual director? This topic was suggested by our dear friend Cheryl. I think it's a great topic. We're taking it on the Take Two way. So fill up those phone lines, guys. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. Before we get to the phones, Jerry, speaking of angels, His Angels at Our Side, Understanding Their Power in Our Souls and in the World by Father John Horgan. I cannot wait to receive this book. I ordered this book. I cannot wait to receive. You know me, Jerry. I get every book that's out there on angels. Father John Horgan unveils the surprising role of the angels in our lives and what you must do to gain their help. You will learn how to imitate the angels in prayer and how they offer you the enlightenment and encouragement God so desperately wants to give you. By praying with the angels, you will be strengthened for what lies ahead and be better able to discern and do the Lord's will in all your actions. His angels at our side, understanding their power in our souls and in the world. And that's available. That's by Father John Horgan, available now at EWTNRC.com. Just buy Catholic, shop EWTNRC.com today and get that book. I highly recommend, if you get one book on angels, that's great. But if you get several books on angels, you can refer back in various times as you develop your understanding of the angels and your relationship with the angels. So I'm really appreciative that Father put this together.
Yeah, sounds like a great book. Yeah, and we have a great topic for you today, suggested by our listener Cheryl, talking about how and where you find a good spiritual director. Maybe you've got just this close friend, and now that you stop and think about it, you think, man, that person's kind of a spiritual director to me. They're a confidant. They give me good advice. Maybe you've got that best spiritual friend, that brother or sister in Christ, or maybe it is, again, a little bit more of a formal relationship. Typically, I like to meet with my spiritual director about once a month. Some people meet every couple of months, maybe once a quarter, something like that. But it's really important. The great saints, the spiritual masters, talk about how important it is to have someone walking by your side on the spiritual life, not always necessarily relying upon our own insights and thoughts and discernment and so forth, but to kind of bouncing that off of someone. So do you have someone in your life like that? If you do, share that with us here at 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
So before we go to the phones, Jerry, share a little bit more. May I ask you just a couple quick questions? I know you and Charles were both at the Eucharistic Congress, along with a lot of other folks from EWTN. Was there anybody that you haven't seen in a long time that you got to meet there? Any new friends? Any Take-Two family members? Did you do a bunch of pictures or take a bunch of pictures? Just can you give us a little bit of the details?
Well, I ran into a lot of people I know. Our good friend Father John from Southern California. Father, if you're listening today, it was great seeing you there. Bishop Joseph Coffey was really the first person I ran into when I got into the exhibit hall. Several other people. It was great being with the crew from EWTN there and doing the radio show from there. But yeah, the whole thing was just an amazing event, especially the big Eucharistic procession with about 50 or 60,000 people in the streets of Indianapolis on Saturday afternoon. So I am so blessed that the Lord allowed me the opportunity to go there. And like I said, for those who didn't, hopefully you're able to watch it. EWTN broadcast on television the whole Congress. And like I said, the next one is already being planned for 2033.
Did they know where yet? Did they announce it?
They did not. No,
they didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Another question: was it safe there? Was it? Did it have security? Was it safe? Because 65,000 people there. Was it? Were there long lines? I mean, could you access everything?
Well, there were, certainly long lines for registration and things like that. But the whole thing was beautiful. It was peaceful. It was secure. Yeah, there was certainly a security presence there, and they did a great job. But there was really no hiccups along the way, at least none that were visible to those of us who attended. Those who put on an event like that, they're probably doing their, after-event critiquing right now, thinking, well, this could have gone better, that could have gone better. But, from the perspective of those of us who attended, that would probably be just nitpicking, because the whole thing was really well produced. The technical end of it, the visuals, the graphics, the stage, the sound, everything was just top notch from start to finish.
So you're glad you went?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Did you wear your seminary?
Yeah, sure.
You did?
Plus, here at the Basilica, we had T-shirts made up as well.
Oh, you did? Okay, so they knew you were in the seminary.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, we do have some open phone lines, and we want to hear from you about spiritual direction. Are you in spiritual direction? Are you looking for a spiritual director? How to find one? What is a spiritual director? We'll happily answer those questions, but you got to call us, 833-288-3986.
All right, let's see what you have to say. We're going to start with Marie, who is in Middle Tennessee, listening on iHeartRadio today. Hi, Marie. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. How are you today?
Doing okay. How about you?
Excellent. This is the best subject ever. I'm just telling you, I am a Catholic cradle. I mean, see, I can't even say the terms right. I'm a cradle Catholic. Parents died when I was very, very young, so I was not raised in the Catholic Church, but I was able to go all the way just to take communion. That's the only thing, the sacrament I could take. Mm-hmm. But I've been a Protestant for over 50 years. So I have just started to come back to the Catholic Church in January. It's such a struggle because there is so much information, and I love my it is a small, rural Catholic church, but I've only met one person that I can talk to really, but not real deep. And it's hard for us new, even as Christians, because when I ask the other Catholics what are certain devotions or how do you do the rosary, I can't even get the answer from people that are sitting next to me in the pew because they don't know. Mm-hmm. So I might know more about the Bible than they know, but I don't know about the Catholic saints, the different things that we do, and the prayers. And I am so overwhelmed because I'm not talking to people and I'm trying to go online, and that's overwhelming. YouTube, thank you for this station because I've probably the little bit that I have grown up is from your station. Mm. But I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings in my area because I live in a rural area. I love my church. I want to stay Catholic. I am not going to leave, even if I never learn it, because I've been in all three worlds, non-saved, Protestant, now Catholic. I am happy here. I'm 67, trying to get direction. So I asked about a spiritual director, and no, it can't be. I have a priest that manages more than one church. Right. And I'm in a rural area, and the furthest church from me is about an hour. So I go to adoration at that church, and I go to confession at that church. But it's so big because it is, I can't get any connection over there. And, I have to wait in line for a confession for about an hour and a half.
Wow.
Or an hour sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I'm real hungry. I really want to dig into it. But now I've got all the books. Don't think I don't have. You could name a book, and I probably have it. Good. I'm overwhelmed with books, saints, prayers.
Good.
I wanted to do certain things, but I passed the date on the I don't even know what you call it because I'm so new. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's spiritual direction I need or just a cool ear to let me grow and ask maybe ignorant Christians.
Well, Marie, what you're sharing, a lot of folks, they express those same concerns and different needs and desires as well. So you're not alone, even if you're in a rural parish or you're in a mega parish in a big city. But a couple things I just wanted to suggest. First of all, I would definitely, if it were me, let's say I was Marie, okay, I would definitely continue to listen to Catholic radio because you're getting constant formation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's the beautiful resource of Catholic radio. We do believe God is using the radio airwaves to properly form all of us, and you can get a very solid catechesis through Catholic radio, so that's fantastic. The second thing I would do, Marie, is first of all, I want to say welcome. You said you were a cradle Catholic, so you were born Catholic, but then you went and explored other areas, and then you came back to the Catholic faith. So welcome home, absolutely welcome home. You're home, and so that's wonderful. And so you know that a truth of our faith is the angels, and you have a guardian angel beside you, Marie. You know this, and your guardian angel's there to help to illuminate your mind and strengthen your will, and also to help you be better formed. They are the best adorers. They pray the best. They do everything the best because they are in the beatific vision and they're ministering to you at the same time. Really bring in your guardian angel to your spiritual life and ask your guardian angel to help you with this formation. Why do I say that? We know from the saints that so many that did that brought their guardian angel into their spiritual lives advanced very quickly. God placed in front of that person people, groups, things, ministry opportunities, all sorts of things to deepen the faith. If that's what you want to do, and it sounds like you do, which I think is beautiful and very holy, then ask your guardian angel to help you, and you'll see that people will come into your path in very strange and maybe even peculiar ways where you can join groups or team up and make friends with somebody so that you can bounce these theological ideas and concepts around and understand them better. I have great confidence in the angels in this area because I've seen it so many times for many years. So I hope that brings you a little bit of excitement and hope as you journey to in seeking the Lord deeper and deeper in the Catholic faith. What do you say, Jer?
No, I think that's all very, very good advice. And Marie, I've had a saying about Catholic radio for a long time. I call it the University of Catholic Radio. And you're a student in that university, as we all are. And you mentioned how overwhelming it can appear at times, and it really can. But the thing is, we just take it one little bit at a time. And I love Debbie's advice about getting your guardian angel involved in this, because they want to steer us in the direction that's going to be best suited for not only our spiritual lives, but our intellectual formation as well. So definitely turn to your guardian angel and ask God, say, Lord, please bring someone or some people across my path. Maybe there's a faith study group in your area that you're not aware of, or a prayer group or something like that. But those are just some thoughts that Debbie and I had to share with you, Marie. What do you think?
Thank you. I really appreciate the what you did share, and I'm kind of a little bit ahead of that, and there's good suggestions. I have looked. There was a prayer group that was way older that I couldn't really relate to, and like I said, being a Protestant, as in I know the basics, and I believe most of what the Catholic Church believes is just trying to get used to praying to Mary and the saints and praying to angels. That's the part that's embarrassing for me, to talk to others that are probably already doing it. And what do you mean you don't know about it? Well,
Right.
I watched the Congress. Oh my gosh, I watched it on TV, and it enlightened me. I love it. I don't want to leave because of ignorance, and I wouldn't do that. But I just want it a lot faster than it's coming to me.
Right.
As in my search.
Oh, but that's a beautiful thing. I mean, God is pleased with that. God loves that, the fact that you have that hunger in your belly and you want to go for it, and you want to, you know the Bible, you've known it for so many years. Now you want to get into what we believe as Catholics and go deeper and deeper. Absolutely. But every step you take, like Jerry said, every step you take, that is so pleasing to God, Marie. I mean, and that's what I think is so wonderful. You're on a beautiful path. The other thing too is are you receiving the Eucharist now? So are you fully back into the Catholic? Okay. So
yeah,
go ahead.
I just now found my birth certificate, my baptismal certificate. So it took me a long time to find that. So I will call the church today, because I just found it Friday. Church has been closed, so I'm going to try to get that up here, and then I'm going to start RCIA.
Beautiful. Well, then that's what I would suggest. Totally focus on the Eucharist, and you'll see the good Lord will provide so many resources and answers for you to bring in the Blessed Mother. A book that I love to recommend is Behold Your Mother by Behold Your Mother by Tim Staples of Catholic Answers. Okay, Behold Your Mother. I highly recommend that book. It's a fabulous book to get you really with a closer relationship with Our Lady. What do you say to that, Jer?
Well, I agree. It's a fantastic book. And Marie, I'm sure you probably searched the internet as well, but two of our favorite places to search, of course, are EWTN.com. If you put in any topic like, Assumption of Mary, EWTN.com, you'll find some great resources. And then, of course, our good friends at Catholic Answers, Catholic.com. So just about any topic, in fact, any topic on the faith that you put in along with Catholic.com will get you some great. And they're not really long. They're just kind of short articles. You can listen to them in audio, or you can read them. And like we said, one little step at a time, Marie, and you, as Debbie said, you're on a great path, a great journey, and we're so excited for you and with you, and you can be assured of our prayers along the way, okay?
Thank you. Can you put me in the book?
Yeah. I did already, Marie. I was way ahead of you. I got you in the book.
Well, I appreciate you, and I listen to you as often as I can. Thank you for all your help.
Thank you. God bless you. Stay in touch with us. Okay.
Will do.
Beautiful. So, Jerry, when we come back from the break, I just want to encourage our listeners to call in and share their understanding of spiritual direction. Maybe they're frustrated by not being able to find a spiritual director. Maybe they're uncertain as to why they even need a spiritual director. You know, when I went through the training to be a spiritual director, I went through the training actually with our friend Tom Peterson from Catholics Come Home. Which is also another great resource, catholicscomehome.org. And Tom and I went through the training to be spiritual directors, and it was tough. But I'll tell you, we learned a lot. And the main key about having a spiritual director, Jerry, is proper discernment. But you know, proper discernment, we can learn that too on our own. So let's talk about that maybe when we come back, Jerry, some helpful tools and tips for our listeners. What do you say?
Indeed. Share your experience with spiritual direction or ask your questions about it. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
July is dedicated as the month of devotion to the precious blood of Jesus. Many saints have spoken of devotion to the precious blood of Jesus, most notably Saint Catherine of Siena. During the month of July, we are encouraged to honor the precious blood of Jesus by making an act of love to the precious blood every day of the month. The Chaplet of the Most Precious Blood with card is composed of 33 beads in memory of the 33 years of Jesus' life on earth and is available at EWTNreligiouscatalog.com.
Remembering Father Benedict Groeschel all day today on EWTN Radio.
Father Benedict Groeschel, priest, very well-educated counselor. What he says about life, about people, is so down to earth. He gave me one of the best expressions. I used it a lot. He says, when somebody tells you something, ask yourself, how does what they're saying square with reality? Good stuff, Father Groeschel.
EWTN, teaching the truth.
Thank you so much for all that you do. And your Mother Angelica and her words, I'll never forget the first shows on television when I found her, and that led me to the radio station.
I'm an 8-year homeschooling mom. I'm a veteran of doing this for a long time. What encouraged me was this beautiful nun named Mother Angelica, and one day she said, well, if you don't like the school, why don't you just pull them out and homeschool them?
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. Do you have questions about the Catholic faith? Get the answers on Call to Communion, coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Well, often you choose the topics, and one of our listeners, Cheryl, a member of the Take Two family, suggested this topic today for you, the rest of her Take Two family, and that is finding a good spiritual director, sharing your experience with one. If you have done that in your life, incorporated that into your spiritual life, 833-288-EWTN is the number to call, 833-288-3986. You can email take2@EWTN.com, post on Facebook or YouTube the video chats, and of course our show website is take2show.com. But we would love to be able to chat with you about this because it is, Debbie, you mentioned you've actually given spiritual direction. You were trained for that. So talk a little bit about, you know, this is not something that somebody goes into and just says, hey, I think I'll hang my shingle out and be a spiritual director. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, I was a religious lay leader in religious education at the church for many years, and then there was a real need for spiritual directors. So our pastor asked a bunch of us to go through training, and that's how I actually went, because we were at the same parish. I was at the same parish with Tom Peterson, and we went through training, and it takes a long time. It took me almost about a year, I believe. It was a long time ago. And then I started, in addition to being a director of religious education and also adult faith formation, being a spiritual director at the parish as one of the spiritual directors. And so it helped Father and our associate pastors to be able to kind of hand off or recommend other spiritual directors that were lay leaders in the community. I did it for many years, 6 to 8 years, Jerry, I believe. I can't remember. I mean, I'm getting older by the second. I'm going to be 59 this year. And by the way, my birthday month is coming up soon, Jerry. I just wanted to remind you. Okay. November. Okay. But it was fabulous. I mean, did I learn a lot about my own faith? Yes. Did I learn about proper discernment? Yes. But after a while, I'll be honest with you, it became a bit overwhelming because a lot of priests would find out that there were lay leaders in the community that were trained spiritual directors, and so they would recommend people to go to them, and you had a hard time saying no, especially when you would see these beautiful souls in front of you, literally begging for the encouragement and the catechesis and the formation, similar to what Marie was sharing from Tennessee. Same thing. It's this hunger, this desire to grow deeper. And you wanted to say yes to everybody, but quite honestly, Jerry, you couldn't, and you had to really figure out who you could help and who you had to maybe direct in another area. So after many years, I finally just said to Father, I said, Father, I'm kind of, I want to still do it informally, but I can't formally be a spiritual director. It was too much. It really became kind of a full-time ministry work. So, but I loved it. And was it beneficial? I guess if you're asking me this question, what was the golden nugget out of spiritual direction? The way of really learning proper discernment. And I can't stress it enough. It's all about discernment. It's, because just because something feels good or just because something looks like it's possibly the right direction may not be the right spiritual direction for you. You really have to take it to prayer and fasting and a real in-depth understanding of things before you embark on things. Because I know people that say yes to a lot of ministry and even some vocations, Jerry, and they have not properly discerned prior to. And so they jump right in because it looks like the next shiny thing, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah. Well, we got some other calls we're going to get to here momentarily, and a line or two are open at 833-288 EWTN, 833-288-3986. Have you taken that step in securing a spiritual director in your life, meeting with somebody on a semi-regular basis and having them kind of assist you in trying to determine what God is doing in your life and where He is leading you? Matt called in, interesting comment here. Matt said, after years of hanging around religious and priests, I realized that, quote, spiritual direction has become an overly complicated thing, he says. Priests and religious won't do spiritual direction per se, but they will be happy to agree to meet with you monthly to discuss your prayer life, your cross, and your vocation. Well, I would say a couple things to that, Matt. One, that you mentioned some of the things that are actually very critical components of spiritual direction, and that is helping you map out your prayer life, your cross, and your vocation. And then I think it was a quote of St. Francis de Sales said, a good spiritual director is 1 in 10,000, and I don't know if he meant 1 in 10,000, priests or whatever, 10,000 people altogether. But St. Francis de Sales does say very, very clearly, Debbie, that, not everyone is called or has the gifts to be a spiritual director.
Well, and let me share something too. Back in the day when I was in spiritual direction, there wasn't any kind of compensation. Okay, there was no stipend or anything like that. I know some priests get stipends and something like that, and now I think that's slightly changed a bit with spiritual direction. That's why I was encouraging folks to go to spiritualdirection.com and check out the question and answer section on finding a spiritual director. So see, even that has changed because it does take a lot of time. I mean, you just don't talk to somebody for 15 minutes. You're usually talking to them for an hour or 90 minutes. That's a long time. And if people do have to, really work and pay the bills, you have to figure out a way how to balance this because not everybody they don't have that kind of waking time to give. So it does take a lot of energy. But I love spiritual direction. I have a couple informal spiritual directors around me, and I have a couple lay leaders that I very much trust, and they're around me too. So I kind of have like this little team around me that I can bounce things off of, and that's what I have recommended to people. If you can't just find that one spiritual director, try to get a team of people that are talented and specialized in various areas. Like if I was going to talk about, religious demonology, or, talking to, what's going on with the demons, who am I going to call? Well, of course it's Adam Bly. I'm going to call Adam Bly and ask him questions. If I've got questions, I ask Jerry all the time. And so I kind of look at that as like an informal spiritual direction team. What do you think to that, Jerry?
No, I think that's great. Yeah, I mean, the more the merrier sometimes. Yeah, as long as, and you would agree with this wholeheartedly, I'm sure, as long as they're not, sort of giving conflicting, advice or insights or direction, or if you're meeting with, say, two different people for quote unquote spiritual direction and getting kind of two different, in some ways opposing messages, then it's not necessarily a bad thing. They could both be good things, but you got to try and narrow it down and, discern that one thing that God is saying to you in that situation.
Well, and Jerry brings up a really good point. So if you don't take anything else from this episode today, please remember this, okay? You just because you like somebody and you think they have a good spiritual life and you think they're solid in the faith, you really have to make sure that you are solid as well. You have to do the work, because I have seen some really devastating spiritual direction cases where a person will go to the spiritual director and they will say, "Okay, I need your help. I need a decision on this. Okay, Jerry, I'm putting this all in your lap. Jerry, you make the decision." Unfortunately, that spiritual director, wants to help, so they jump in, they help that person. It didn't turn out well. And so that's not good, right? I agree with you, Jerry. You have to be solid in your own formation first.
Yeah. All right. Again, the number 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. I guess maybe I've been fortunate over the years, Debbie, because all of I've always had a priest as a spiritual director, because I like to have that person be my confessor as well. I find that that's a good combination, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about that. But I've always, thanks be to God, those priests that I've always asked for spiritual direction have been, for the most part, willing to do that, and took a very keen and serious interest in my spiritual life, where I was at the time, where God was taking me, and so forth. So I've had good experiences in that situation.
Well, okay, so we have to be really, really transparent about this. Okay, Jerry, you've been in ministry in Catholic radio for many, many years. I was in religious education for many years. We have had access to priests and nuns and other people. So when you have access to priests and nuns, it does make it a little bit easier to create those connections. If you're active in a volunteer ministry at the parish, that's another way to have access. And so I will say that when I was working at the parish, oh my goodness, I could have a spiritual director every weekend. But after stopping working at the parish level and then going into full-time radio ministry, it became a little bit difficult. I would call my old friends who were priests, and they're like, "Oh, we're busy," and so that happens. So it's interesting, though, when you say access to these priests and nuns, it's very important, and to have a relationship with them.
Yeah, by all means, yeah, and they see the work that you're doing, and I think they see, I think, the need that we have. Not that anybody's spiritual life is more important than others, but I think when you're in ministry, you really want to be as grounded in your prayer life and in spiritual direction as possible, because you're always sort of in the crosshairs, of the enemy trying to take you out.
Right. Well, and it's a responsibility to be in ministry, because you're leading other souls either closer to God or you're driving them away, and that's dangerous for your own spiritual health. So, and it's a big responsibility. We're going to get to Giovanna, but I just want to do a shout out to Lucia, who was a first-time caller in Austin, Texas. Lucia, you were going to be next. Call back. Please call back. But in the meantime, Giovanna in Ohio on Sirius XM 130 is waiting so patiently. Welcome to the program.
Hi.
Hi, Giovanna. Good. How are you?
Hi, Jerry. I'm well, thank you. And Jerry, congratulations on going back into the seminary. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I have a question that might be kind of a strange question. I was in religious education all my life, Debbie, just like you. And I got married 5 years ago, and I quit work. I didn't work anymore. I'm not working, but I'm active in my parish. My question is with regard to how, and I should know this, but it doesn't work for me. How do you find a good spiritual director? I know a lot of priests, I know a lot of religious, and it doesn't seem to work. And I was thinking maybe if I try to go to somebody that I don't know, maybe that might help. But these other people say, I don't do spiritual direction. I won't do spiritual direction probably because of, something that happened. And in the past, I was with a spiritual director, and it did not work out at all. So now I find myself wanting some spiritual direction, and I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do.
Right.
So if you could help me with that, I'd really appreciate that.
Sure. I could go first. You want me to go first, Jer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's what I would do, Giovanna. This is what I would do, because you said you're active at the parish and you've been in religious education. Even tap some of those fellow catechists and see who you admire and respect, those that really, walk the walk and talk the talk. And what I would do is, and here's the thing about spiritual direction, this is just my personal suggestion, so it's not across the board. Maybe if you go to spiritualdirection.com, they have a whole different way of looking at it, and other priests have other ways of looking at it. This is just my experience of it. I think when it's a situation, like you have something that you're wanting to understand better, or you're wanting to pray about, or you're wanting to figure out in your own spiritual life, and it's a one item ticket, right? And it can be easily accomplished in a 15-20 minute conversation. I think people are more apt to jump in and help with in regards with spiritual direction. Again, I will say that spiritual direction, it requires a lot of time and energy. I'll give you an example. I used to set aside 6 hours of spiritual direction a week. Take a guess on how many hours it turned out to be a week when I would set aside 6 hours that I had. It was more like almost 18 hours. So you see what I'm saying about this? It becomes overwhelming for the spiritual director, and I think they walk away just plain exhausted, not because they don't like the person, not because they don't want to help, but because it takes a lot of that focus. And so what I would suggest, Giovanna, is maybe tapping some people at the parish and saying, hey, Jerry, you're at the parish, you're my fellow parishioner. I really love, what I see you, demonstrating as being a Catholic Christian. I'm wondering if I have certain things I want to run by you. Can I run these things by you? So kind of form like what I did, an informal set of spiritual directors. I don't know if that helps, but if you're going to go for one spiritual director, I would meet with your pastor and really say to your pastor, I'm looking for that one person that's going to journey with me. Could you help me? And see if Father will help you in that area. That would be my two suggestions. What do you say, Jer?
I can only add to that, Giovanna, that I would say, first of all, interview them. That sounds kind of strange, but if you have, say you've got 2 or 3 or 4 potential spiritual directors, you're not going to hurt their feelings. You shouldn't hurt. If their feelings get hurt because you say, I don't think you're a good fit, then that's some kind of a problem with them, I would suggest. But because in their humility, they want to do what's best for you, in terms of God's will for your life. So don't be afraid to set up meetings with multiple individuals, priests, religious, holy people, and really be in prayer. Holy Spirit, guardian angel, let me know which one of these people is going to be the best to guide me on this spiritual path. Mm-hmm. What do you think of all the things that we have shared, Giovanna?
I appreciate it. I think that's very helpful. I was just thinking right now, Jerry, as you were speaking, I can think of all the people that I know, it sounds crazy, but I can only think of 2 people. And one of them I've already approached. And they said, I can't do it because I'm just so busy and it takes an awful lot. I'm like, I'm starting to get a complex, to be honest with you, because it's like, of all these people, I can't find one person that really wants to do spiritual direction. Although maybe the term itself probably scares them away. I don't know.
Well,
but, I appreciate.
Yeah, Giovanna, that's why I said at the beginning, whatever you do, don't take it personally. I mean, if it makes you feel any better, do you know how many times I've been declined and asking for spiritual direction? I have probably had more priests say to me no Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, so many I can't even count. So don't take it personally. It's not because they don't like us, they don't care about us, they don't, they want to help us. It really is not, it's not personal. It has to do with how practical it is in their ministry, and it becomes something that takes all of their time. So I hope that makes you feel better. I've been declined and told no many times. Does that help?
Yeah, that does help. Thank you so much, and I will take a look at my parish first and just see some of the people that I know there that might be able to help me.
Yeah,
and the other. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And the other thing too, I would just say to all our listeners, with regards to the confessional, I wouldn't use the confessional as a time for spiritual direction. It's just not the right time because you got people waiting, and there's just a short window of opportunity to go to confession. So I know that people try to sneak in spiritual direction in that, or even try to make an appointment or something. I would really try to set aside a time when Father is outside of the confessional and talk to him about setting a special time just for you and him, or a deacon at the church or a lay leader, and to really sit down and kind of plan this out. Wouldn't you agree with that, Jerry? You're at the parish right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. There's only been one time when a priest said he did not want to be my spiritual director because I think he did not have the time, and I thought he would be a perfect fit. I thought everything about him, his spirituality, his faith, his personality, and everything. I thought this is going to be the one. And I asked him, and he said no. And I was a little bit, downcast at first. I thought, Lord, this was the one. And yet God led me right to the perfect spiritual director shortly after that. So there is someone out there, Giovanna. We'll be praying for you. Thank you for joining us here on the program. We appreciate that so much. I'm going to get more of your calls in here in a moment. I just have to tell you, first of all, that one of the other fine programs on EWTN is Open Line. And on Wednesdays, Father Mitch Pacwa, tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on most of these same EWTN stations. It's Open Line weekdays and Wednesdays. It's Father Mitch Pacwa tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay, so we wanted to go to, let me see. Okay, Robin is driving through Ohio on Annunciation Radio. And Lucia, you called back. We're so excited. Hang on. Robin, driving through Ohio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
We're great. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I did have a young lady who I had hooked up with for spiritual direction, and I liked her very much. But culturally, we just didn't mesh. I'm 61, so just a tad older than you. She's in her 30s, and she didn't grow up in the USA. So a lot of my colloquialisms and things that I said to her, she really didn't understand. So I'm sitting here on hold waiting. I realized that Debbie, you'll get this. If they can spell baloney without singing it, they're too young to be my spiritual director. But, so what I'm thinking is I'm coming back from the Eucharistic Congress, and there were a number of booths with guided small groups for women. And I brought home a lot of literature, and I think I'm going to try and get one of those started because we don't have any spiritual directors in our parish per se.
Great idea. Great idea. Well, see, and that goes back to what Jerry said about interviewing your spiritual director, and I agree with you. I would not let me give you just a quick example. I personally, because I've been in the faith my whole life, and I've been in religious education my whole adult life, and I have a graduate degree in theology. I'm not trying to brag, but it would be hard for me to get somebody who's a spiritual director who's relatively new in the faith, or has a different approach, or has only been in the faith for so many years. That's why I always went to priests. Not so much that I had to have a priest or a religious sister, but I wanted a much older person who has been in the faith a very long time and has seen all the changes in the church and things like that. So Robin, I can relate. What do you say to that, Jer?
Definitely. I think we're talking about, we've kind of emphasized on this conversation, the spiritual importance and kind of focusing on the spiritual and the theological and the intellectual and the prayer and all of that. But there are definitely things of a human nature as well that is very, very important. So I think you're bringing up some really good points, Robin.
Thank you. Yeah, I had interviewed two women, and I did one a couple of years ago, but she was, I don't know how to put it, too soft. Everything was wonderful. Everything was, oh, you're trying. Isn't that lovely? I don't want a participation trophy. I want to make it to heaven.
That, you know what, that is a great point. We haven't even mentioned that, and you brought it up. Thank you for doing so, Robin. A spiritual director is not there to be a yes man or a yes
like a
woman.
cheerleader.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, you're doing great, rah, 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 keep it up. But someone who can challenge you as well,
That's right.
really to go deeper in prayer, and
Yep, that's right. Jerry nailed it. You really want a spiritual director that's going to challenge you to really stretch and, like you said, Robin, get to heaven. Absolutely. I love that you're starting that group. We'll be praying for it. I put you in the book, Robin. Drive safely through Ohio, okay?
All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
God bless. Yeah.
Thank you. And Lucia called back. I'm so excited from
Yay.
Austin, Texas on YouTube. Oh, Jerry, let's wave. Hi, Lucia. Is it Lucia or Lucia?
Lucia.
Lucia. Okay. Welcome back.
Hi, you can hear me. Wow.
Go right ahead.
Yes. The last lady, how interesting, the last lady, Giovanni, and even the one after that, were talking what I'm having a problem with, finding a spiritual director.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And are you at the parish, Lucia? Are you at the parish, active at your parish in Austin?
I still have to work. I'm 61, but I still have to work.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, and I'm trying, and I'm in a centering prayer group, but I'm still having issues. And I can say that I probably need to endeavor with prayer more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm dealing with complicated grief, and since 2010, and I've even sought out a therapist, and they told me to do a vision board. And I went to a couple of priests, and one, I don't know if I didn't present myself correctly. And then recently, one said the past is the past, and you have to move forward. But I'm having trouble, and from what I'm gathering, I don't know how to. It sounds like that they. I mean, I understand. At least it's opening up my eyes. What you've said, that
right.
Spiritual direction is a hard thing to come by, and it's kind of like a therapist finding the right one for you and the time, et cetera,
Right.
et cetera.
Okay, so we have a couple quick suggestions, and we don't want to run out of time. So I want to make sure you leave here with this conversation with some things that you can work on today. The first thing I would do is call your parish that you are registered at in Texas, and I would speak to the front office person and just share with them. Say, I have certain things I really want to explore. I need some things I need to work on. I need some support in this area. If you don't have the ministries in place here at the parish, could you point me in the right direction through the diocese, or go bigger? You might have to drive a little bit, but I would definitely start there. I would definitely call your parish, and don't leave there until you get a few numbers that you can call and start to work on your path. You deserve that support, Lucia, and the support is there. I can assure you of that. The support is there. You just have to find it. That's my main suggestion. Jerry, did you want to share something?
Well, I would just add to that, Lucia, that we're going to be praying for you. It sounds like you do have some significant things that you want to get some assistance with, and God wants that for you as much or probably more than you want that for yourself. So we are going to run out of time here in just a moment, but our email address, Lucia, is take2@ewtn.com. If you would like to further this conversation off the air, you hear the music there. We're so glad that you got back through, because God intended for you to do that. And we would love to connect with you further via email. Again, it's take2@ewtn.com. But don't give up. Do not give up, because God has someone or some people there who are going to be able to help you tremendously. We believe that.
Absolutely, Lucia. We'll be praying, and stay in touch with us. Jeff in Lancaster, Pennsylvania talks about, could you go to your mom or your dad or an aunt or an uncle? Absolutely. Go to an elder in your family that you respect and you spiritually admire. Absolutely. Pick a family member. Jerry, tomorrow's show, another suggested by Bernadette. When you are called to be a caregiver, now what?
Now what? Yeah. Thank you to the show team. As always, fantastic job. And we thank the affiliates for carrying the program. Until we talk to you again tomorrow, we want to wish you a beautiful and blessed day. Talk to you real soon. Life coaching has been around for many years, helping people with their relationships, careers, health,